Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the CRL. It's Friday night. You are here on the College Cardball channel, and we have been having a whole lot of fun. A game from the East and a game from the West. We're going back East, Squid, for this next matchup, OSU Scarlet versus Miami University.
And we're both from the East, which
that we are.
Means literally nothing, but this matchup is going to mean a whole lot, I promise you, with OSU Scarlet's roster being on the verge of being in that top 8. Very important spot to be. They're currently sitting at 7-6, if I'm not mistaken, Hunted.
Yeah, I believe you're correct. It's like every team we've talked about tonight. They've had ups and downs this season. They've had big wins. They've had tough losses, and it's culminating to this one game. They need to win this game. But Scarlet, same situation. We talked about them a little bit earlier as well. Just like their brethren at OSU in the gray team, this is a must-win game for them as well if they want to push that top 8.
Yeah, we may as well just have like a script that just has like a blank slot where the team name goes and the rest of it is just the same because it is the same situation. I'm just going to take a quick look at the standings because I believe that Miami is already out of it, and maybe if I actually find them, there they are. Yep, down at 4-10, unfortunately for them, so they're already out. But they have a chance, again, to play spoiler here, and I really feel like, we're just like kind of on repeat here, Hunted. Is this like the first series we've done, the third series we've done? You get the idea. It's basically all jumbled into one mess now because of how similar everything has been. But,
well, I mean, it's kind of a good thing, to be honest. There's clear winners in the divisions. I mean, you can't talk about East without talking about Akron, right? Or you can't talk about the West without LSU and Arizona and UNT and what have you. But it's really cool to see how many teams are super close to one another, and they're taking games off some of the larger name teams, but they're also battling really, really hard to get into that playoff spot. And I have a feeling that we could see one of these teams make a pretty good run at the playoffs.
We absolutely can, but that's enough talk. Let's get down to the actual fight. OSU Scarlet taking on Miami University once again in this best of 5. And OSU Scarlet desperately needs this win. We'll see if they can pull it off here.
Game number 1 underway. Scarlet in blue, Miami in orange. I believe Miami has a sub in Spec today. We'll have to see how he does. But rival in 11 on the pitch for Miami, Ohio. For OSU Scarlet, Sleppy, Masseter, and Vortex. We watched them last night as well. Masseter's going to try to turn this around in mid. Rival would like to keep it going. Good catch by Sleppy, but he gives the ball away. 11 scores. Miami on the board early.
And oh boy, Hunted, I think I'm going to have to call out Ohio State on this defense here, because if we take another look at this, I believe Vortex made the save and then got dunked by Masseter, who came across just a moment late for that one. Rather unfortunate, if I do say so myself, but Miami will gladly take that goal.
That they will, and they will put themselves up early. And again, this is a very similar situation to what we saw last series, where Oregon, they didn't really have a chance to make the playoffs. They wanted to play spoiler, and they put everything on the line in that final game. I expect the exact same from Miami against this Scarlet team. You can't make the playoffs, but you can play spoiler to someone else, and that feels just as good. Uh-oh!
Vortex not able to get behind that ball, unfortunately, on the retreat. And I suppose, yeah, Miami University in Ohio clearly looking like they're willing to put their hearts and souls into this game. They got that second one there. I'm not exactly sure if that was in originally, actually. It looked like it might have been wide on the outside. Either way, though, it did find its way in. And Ohio State with some clear areas to improve thus far.
Yeah, pretty sloppy start. They don't even have a shot on board yet. But it is very early, not even 2 minutes gone by here in game number 1. I think Miami have just got the jump on them a little bit. We'll see if they can shake things up. Masseter sends that towards the net. Spec to play it away. Sleppy now down looking for Vortex. 11's there to cut that off. Vortex will turn. Small touch over top of Spec. Masseter trying to play this out in front. Sleppy's there, but 11's there first. This is much better sustained pressure now from this Scarlet roster. Masseter goes up to push it back in the Miami zone. Rival hard touch. There's Sleppy down towards Vortex. Vortex on net. Sleppy up for it. Slow roller. Spec gets to it and stays. 2-0.
Yeah, simply just not enough power on that one, but you mentioned it, the sustained pressure really coming through, and they've still got a chance here. Now Massacre and Vortex not even going to try for that read. A bit too much juice behind that touch by Massacre coming off the back wall, but you can tell a little bit of a slow start for OSU, but granted, we did see that from this roster yesterday night when they played in their series, which they ended up winning 3-2 against a tough opponent. So I'm not doubting their ability, and Sleppy's going to take that one. Pass from Vortex off the back wall and hunt it. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it again. I don't.
Well, you know, I agree with you again that the back wall was a bit open there, but they had to react to that pass early on in that sequence, and that's a tough read. You don't know if the guy's going to go low or high with that shot. He opted for high, and now Vortex, he had a wide open net. He luckily puts that back in. That could have been a huge miss. Vortex up before the challenge. We're tied at 2.
And within a span of about 10 real-time seconds, yep, that tie coming right off the face-off just after the half. And I guess Ohio State decided that they were going to play the game as is normal after those 2 goals against in the beginning.
Yeah, halftime just expiring as well, so we are all knotted up. Still a half a game of Rocket League left to play. We'll see which of these teams will break the tie, potentially in regulation or potentially in overtime, depending. This one's going to bounce down towards Rival. He plays it looking for 11. Low gets hung up on the wall. Sloppy out of the corner. Has Vortex in support. Solid touchdown. Going to bounce around in mid for the moment, but Massacre in that signature watermelon car plays it along. 11's there. Solid touch. What a beauty from 11. Puts Miami back on top.
You couldn't ask for a better redirect. Rival just tossing it down his way, and oh my goodness, yeah, it's just so beautiful. That's that very, very, ever so weak wheel touch to encourage the ball. He didn't even really like hit the ball. He just, you know, like love tap, just kind of, you know, told the ball. It's like, I just kind of want you to go over this way. Could you move over there, please? And the ball was like, oh, how am I supposed to get past that kindness? And here's another one, 11. Earning credit for this goal as well, just rolling in from the midfield.
Yeah, this looks like Vortex is off of ball cam here. I mean, he's actually in a decent position, but I think he was mid-flip, maybe realized he wasn't going to get back to it. Either way, that's a crack in the armor of Scarlet, and Miami get back to their 2-goal lead they had earlier on in this game. We'll see how Scarlet respond. They were able to claw back, but they find themselves in a worse position now with less time on the clock. That goes hard off their back wall. Sleppy trying to get by Spec, but solid challenge in mid from the boys in orange. One more time, Rival now into the zone. Massacre challenges him off the back wall, can't get by Spec. Solid time waste for Miami University. 11 towards the cage. Great save from Massacre. Rival still there to keep it in. 11 for the read. Doesn't get the touch. But my goodness, this time is ticking and ticking fast for Scarlet.
And that's well and truly the key. Miami doesn't necessarily have to put more points on the board at this point. 2 goals is pretty good here this late in the game as far as insurance is concerned. So just putting the ball onto the back wall, and a great fake there by Spec. Sleppy had to respect the back pass opportunity, and it just never came. Well done, wonderfully done by Miami. Here's a shot opportunity, crossbar and away, but again, so much time wasted by the very fact that they're here on the offense.
11 has 5 shots in this game, 3 goals, his hat trick obviously, and why not a save to his name as well. He has been the catalyst for the offense for Miami University. It looks to be all that's necessary to push them over. OSU Scarlet here in game 1, final 10 seconds to go. Vortex clears it back down. That one's just wide of the goal. 11's going to control. That's actually a pretty smart play from what he did just there. Realized nobody was hard charging towards the net. They were going to play the corner. Waste just enough time. Miami take the victory. Game 1, a 4-2 final score. And while it looked okay through the mid-game for Scarlet, certainly a lot they need to improve on heading into game 2.
Yeah, and I think you talk about, yeah, there's a lot in the mid-game that they did well, and that's really all that there was for them in that category, because there were so many times in the early game and in the late game where we kind of look at what they're doing, say like, okay, I understand the idea and what you're trying to go for, but what in the world is the execution? Because it just never came together. There were a couple of decent opportunities, I suppose, but overall just a sloppy game. But I will, again, draw a parallel between today and yesterday night, where they kind of had the same slow start as we saw there.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the curse of game ones, right? Typically, the team you expect to come out quickly will take it slow a little bit. And we talked about this, I think, briefly last night, that it's not like they're playing the same teams over and over again in this long season. It is you play every team one time. So you've never seen Scarlet unless you've scrimmed against them or you talk to people who've already played them. So it's kind of a feeling out process. I think OSU comes out a little bit quicker here in game number 2. We'll have to see. I'd love to know your thoughts. Make sure to use the hashtag CRL19. We can show your tweets right here on stream as game number 2 just about to start, Squid.
And I personally feel like that, again, Ohio State, I said they had a slow start, but at the same time, another thing that we saw from them last night is, despite that slow start, by the end of the series, they were using all 3 of their players in offensive attacking plays, and their rotations on the back line were rather solid as well. So if you're out there counting Ohio State out of the equation at this point, I have to say you are most likely mistaken, my friend. We'll see how they perform here in game 2 as things get started up. And they start out in the initial attack. A slight touch there from 11 ever so slight. Passes it up to Rival. Vortex there for the save. And 11 for the follow-up.
I think it's important for Scarlet to find the first goal in this game. They might get it here. Massacre scores off the giveaway in the defensive zone. Scarlet take the lead. And it's just exactly what I said. I think this is going to help them get their feet under them here in game 2.
And great job taking advantage as well. Massacre's so quick to capitalize on that mistake from 11. You saw Speck moving upfield, wanted to play for that pass down that 11 was clearly going for. Just that one missed touch, but Massacre was right on top of it and able to punish. Very well done indeed, but Miami not out of it yet. A nice shot there, but a little bit wide of the net. Now 11 off the back wall. Rival just doesn't have the boost for it. Gonna opt for the pass to Speck, but it's a little bit far-fetched, and Sleppy will intercept.
Yeah, it was a broken play for Miami, but the amount of space they had was a little bit too much for my liking, especially if you are a OSU fan. Kind of getting their signals crossed on the defensive side of the ball. That is a great way to give up a goal, and they certainly don't want to do that with only a 1-goal lead.
Vortex can't make a touch, and Sleppy barely able to get it away. 11 getting bumped for his efforts by Massacre, but he's not going to be able to keep any control out of it. Overall, honestly, it doesn't seem like the play has changed very much, and here's a shot off the post and away. 11, respecting the defender, however. But Miami, they're spending just as much time on the offensive end as they did at the beginning of the last game. It's just Ohio State have, they kind of built a brick wall since then.
We'll see if that brick wall can be destroyed. Still plenty of time. Over 3 minutes to go here in game number 2, and 3 minutes feels like a lifetime sometimes in Rocket League, especially when you're playing defense with a 1-goal lead. It's now Rival towards the cage. Solid touch from Massacre. He might even get the next one. He does, over top of Speck. Rival, last man back, gets demoed. Sleppy towards the goal. Good save by 11. That is a wonderful pass and a wonderful goal from Scarlet. 2-0 now, 2:51 left.
Vortex going for the demo plan as well. Sleppy cutting the rotation. It was perfectly executed. I mean, I say that in the most literal sense. I mean, Vortex running through the back line, and Sleppy had turned away from that opportunity until he knew for certain that he was going to be receiving that pass in the mid without any contest. Wonderfully done. And here's another one, taking that pass from Massacre, going for the follow-up himself, and Speck has to dive and make a save. But Scarlet, right off the bat for this last kickoff, showing some pretty strong signs.
Much better and better game from them, certainly here in game 2. Might even find a third. He will. Everybody getting involved now, Squid. A goal apiece for the Scarlet team. It's 3-0.
You almost have to say, honestly, no touch made by the defense there. 2 players at the front post. Maybe a bit of a misplay there by Miami, getting confused by Sleppy perhaps. Either way, somebody up there make the force. You got 2 players. Use the resources at your disposal. In any case, however, they do find themselves trailing by these 3 now just after the half.
Much different game than game number 1. Miami Really haven't had too much offensive zone time, though they do lead in shots by 1. That's going to change now, as it doesn't matter if they lead in shots. OSU leads in goals, and it's 4.
Yeah, and honestly, I have to say, Ohio State's Scarlet roster, they may have had a slow start, but they were not wasting any time in getting started up here in game number 2. Now with this 4-goal lead, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we started to see them play more defense and just try and save the passing plays that they have. Try and keep some of their rule book closed to the Miami defenders here, as to not waste so many chances they might have to make fake plays, intricate passing plays off the backboard, etc. Try and keep some of the tools in the tool bag, if you know what I mean.
Sure, absolutely. And if you are Miami University after a game like this, I think it's time to kind of go back to the basics of Rocket League, right? Make sure that you maintain possession of the ball, make sure your clears are good, make sure every touch that you make is purposeful, meaningful, gives you an advantage or takes away an advantage from your opponent. As it just seems like they're getting a little bit flustered right now. And if you kind of focus on those basics, you take shots when you have them, things can go your way. It hasn't gone well for them in game 2, but there's still plenty of time left, as we're only going to be tied 1-1 going into game 3.
Oh, Masseter. Oh, boy. Well, to a certain extent, I suppose it's appropriate to try and crush your opponent's spirit as much as you can. So, a beautiful pass from Slappy and Masseter. 70 miles an hour off that redirect. Not much you can do about that one.
How does a watermelon get that much power on a ball the size of this Rocket League ball?
He's a big watermelon. That's all. That's the only thing I can think of. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, either that or he's moving very fast, but one of those things definitely was not true. Oh my goodness, Rival, what a save.
Gets the second one as well. Beautiful play. Unfortunately, will be a bit too little too late for the Miami squad. Battle for Ohio will go into game number 3, knotted up at 1.
We don't like to call games before regulation is ended, but oh my, yep, I think this one is over. If it wasn't over by this score, all right, it's definitely over in the minds of the Miami players. I'll tell you that one for free. The Ironworks denying them their goal there.
Wow. 6th goal on the board. Hey, we have a chance now for a Brazil if things work out that way. We saw one last night, actually. I think that was LSU versus Purple, right?
Yes.
But either way, it has been a dominant performance in game 2 for OSU. They've really stepped things up after game 1. They've shown us that they can score in just about any situation. They can make plays happen. They can create opportunities. Like I said, for Miami, when you get faced with an opponent who has really just dominated you in a game, you've really got to make sure that you are not giving away opportunities or giving away the ball by going back and simplifying your game. Really making sure that you play to the basics of Rocket League, not above them, and not trying to go too fast that you're making mistakes.
And I have to say, I think that's especially true for this particular situation, which is rather unfortunate because, usually what happens when you win the first game and then you lose the second game is my advice to you would be, well, what did you do in the first game that, was your boon? What were you doing that basically allowed you to win that game? In this case, however, it's more of the change from game 1 to game 2 was not anything that Miami really tended to do. It was just Ohio kind of decided, hey guys, we lost the game. Let's play the game now. And my God, did they play the game. They thrown down 6 goals here. And again, I would tell Miami, just go back and do what you did in game 1. But they did that already, and it did not come close to working by any means.
Well, they just need to make sure that they keep in the right mindset going into game number 3, of course. Yes. And it's even more difficult. You compound that, losing game 3 the way that they did. I'm sorry, game 2 the way that they did, with the fact that in reality, this series doesn't matter a whole lot to Miami. So it's really easy to kind of just, give up, let this series play out how it will. But we saw from Oregon, they had no give in their play. They made it all the way into that game 5 match, and I think Miami have that as well. They showed that to us in game 1. I would love to see them spark it again here in game 3.
As would I, but OSU going to be taking a lot of momentum off that last game and seeing if they can play it forward now in game 3. And that was almost a quick opportunity, but still be a little bit far back to play off the back wall. Great pass there from Vortex over to Masseter. Closed out early, but tossed up into the corner. Masseter did not have the beat on that one as he thought. But no quick goal from Ohio State yet. Going to leave some hope for Miami right off the bat.
Here's Sleppy now. He's looking for somebody in the corner. They both Masseter and Vortex opt to turn away, and they both get beat on this play. 11's up for it now. Off the back wall, Rival with the read, but he pushes it well wide. Had Speck waiting in that midfield area, but the ball ends up not bouncing out towards him, so we continue to play on 0-0. As now Speck taking this time against Masseter, gets the 50 over towards 11. Off the corner wall, but cleared away eventually by the defender. So minute 1 comes and goes in game 3. We are still scoreless here. But this is looking much better on the offensive side for Miami.
Oh, it certainly is, and I was going to comment on that. You mentioned that they need to get back to the basics and just make sure that they handle possession well, so they're not clearing it out to the opponents in any meaningful way. Just overall keeping their control, and there's an excellent example. Speck keeps calm on the defensive end. They've been doing a phenomenal job so far. A drastic improvement from game 2.
It's a solid read from Rival as well. Last man back, challenging Masseter. He's got to play it out of the corner. Does so deftly. Finds the pass out towards 11, and he looks to start the offensive attack. Wheels and tries to deal out of the corner. Sleppy, they'll make the save. Speck to keep it in. Doesn't have a pass over to 11, so he'll take it himself. Great touch, but no follow-up. Now Masseter in transition, doesn't quite get the touch. Sleppy, however, will. As 2 minutes have passed, and we still haven't seen a goal yet in this game. Rival trying to change that. Vortex had a bit of an unfortunate own goal in game 1. Has redeemed himself a bit since. Would love to get another one in the back of the opponent's goal this time, Squid, with halftime coming, and we still have no score.
No score and a rather low shot count as well. With that one right there, Vortex saving it away. Produced 2 on either side of the ball. Rather even split thus far. On just about every stat line, in fact. There are only 2 saves and 2 shots on either side, and making it 3 saves for Ohio State. Close call, and Vortex gonna throw it all the way downfield and earn the first goal of the game from downtown.
Wow, that one's got to be frustrating for Miami. That is a perfect shot, but a beauty of a save from Masseter. Of course, the carom comes right out to Vortex, and he hits it with all of his power.
This is what I was talking about. What I was talking about in game 2. OSU has built a brick wall. That was a beautiful shot. Well executed by Miami. It's just that suddenly Ohio State have produced a defense that is so strong that it didn't even make a difference.
Well, let's see if Miami can produce the sledgehammer here, Squid. I don't think this one is over. They have had offensive attacks. They just haven't cracked the defense. As 11's now looking for Speck. Goes underneath Sleppy. Masseter has to go up and make the play. Vortex demoing 11. Gives Masseter a little bit of time, but Rival's there to challenge. Has Speck in mid. Great pass down. Chip shot. Rival's trying to turn on it, but Masseter is there to make the play. Speck still not giving up on it. And they will have to rotate back. Can 11 get there in time? Just barely. It's on the goal line. What a save from Rival. Keeps it a 1-0 game.
How in the world do you save that? I'm taking notes. I'm watching this replay back, but oh my god. What a play. Using the game sense most likely, how could you possibly see Vortex coming in from that angle with the ball cam on? And now the counter. Is it inside the post? Not quite. The Ironworks saved the day for the Scarlet roster. But they're still in the danger zone here. Sleppy gonna get up. No contact made there. Vortex chases it out. Close calls on either side, and what turned into a rather slow game turned into a heated match so quickly.
We're just under 60 seconds left to go here in game number 3. Things have certainly picked up in pace as Sleppy doesn't quite get the touch. Masseter doesn't either! That falls in the back of the goal. We're tied.
And I don't think there's any way to look at this. You gotta be ready for this eventuality. What in the world? The ball bouncing just over Masseter's hitbox there. You could tell he was trying to dribble it away. That, I feel, might be one of the most unfortunate situations I've seen in Rocket League to date. And Masseter blocked out just barely by Rival. Spec for the miraculous follow-up save. Vortex has to play to his own corner. 30 seconds on the clock, and OSU looking to transition out now. A beautiful doink pass up to Sleppy. Spec can't make the touch, but 11 is there to save the day. And the Scarlet roster, oh my god, what is going on here, Hunted?
Rival has had 2 saves in this game, and they have both been absolutely sensational ones to keep us tied up at 1 right now. By far, the player of the game for Miami right now has to be Rival, keeping this one close. Final 5 seconds on the clock. Sleppy tries to touch this towards. That's going to fall. Rival will see to it. We're in overtime in game 3.
Seriously, Hunted, we looked at the scoreboard approaching the half with 3 or 4 shots on the net, and now we're here in OT, half of regulation later, with 7 for Miami and 10 for OSU Scarlet. What in the world happened? They just... Every single player decided, you know what, I'm bored of this. Let's just go all out, throw everything we have at it, and Spec with an amazing dunk. Massacre is there, earns himself the Savior medal, and saving the game along with it. Jeez. Could this get much closer?
Doesn't feel like it, certainly, as now Rival has to go up and push this away from his cage. Here's Spec, might have a chance at the goal, but Sleppy's there to turn that one around. Just about a half minute gone here in this overtime session. Game number 3 has turned into an intense battle between these 2 teams. It feels like Miami, they're getting closer and closer, Squid.
Oh, that
but
demo.
That is going to change things. Sleppy with the well-timed demo, and Scarlet, they skate by here in game 3 and find the victory.
Everything going according to plan on the defense, and then surprise, Sleppy's in your net taking out your defense. OSU Scarlet, great communication as well. Vortex knowing that he has basically a completely open net. It takes a lot of mental fortitude to get around the mentality that you're just tossing it straight into an opposing player, trusting in your teammate that he's going to be there and he's going to take that defender out of the net, clutching up with the plays. But seriously, I feel like that's the most bipolar game that I've ever seen, going from absolute calm to a complete shootout by the end of regulation in the span of about 2.5 minutes. Ridiculous.
You could tell the sense of urgency really ramped up for the teams when we got close to the end there.
Yeah.
But, you know, a big sigh of relief has to be coming from Masseter and Sleppy on the Scarlet roster. I mean, that is not a goal you give up with 40 seconds left and you're up by 1. Granted, it's a tough play. You know, things didn't work out how they expected them to. But Vortex coming through as the hero for Scarlet. Both of the goals they needed. He carried his team to victory there. Game 4 on the horizon. Scarlet up by 1, 2-1 in the series now. This one's going to be close. I still feel like Miami have a shot. They made that game so competitive.
Yes, and if there's one thing I had to say to the players right now, it's please make this game as entertaining as the last half of the last game. It would be my pleasure, my treat to watch that. I would love so much to see that. But here we go, game number 4 on your screens now. Miami still want to spoil Ohio's opportunity to get into the playoffs and secure that spot, but they're going to have to come back and win 2 games in a row here.
That they most certainly are, as now Spec plays this into the corner. Sleppy to turn it around. 11 out in front. Rival tries to get that by Masseter. Not quite going to happen. Spec runs into Vortex. 11 hard off the sidewall. Sleppy. Solid control, and he'll get the second touch here as well to keep it in the orange corner. Spec unable to make the play. Sleppy's going to win the 50. The ball finds its way in the back of the goal. OSU on the board early.
And this relatively low-action goal here, but Rival had to backflip into that ball. Honestly, I was just about to say, you know, it was a poor decision, but what else could he realistically have done in that spot? He had nobody else to back him up. I mean, he had to just hope that he won that 50-50. So for Sleppy, that was just an easy play. Had Masseter in support, and they're going to get another one right here, dropping it into the bottom right corner. Close call off the ironworks, but they make it work.
Yeah, and Sleppy's going to get credit for this one as well. Makes the pass to himself. Spec, knowing the importance of playing back wall defense, sometimes it's just so hard to get up to those reads, especially when it comes off the ceiling the way it did with the trajectory it had. That's a tough play. Unfortunately for him, he wasn't able to make it, so Sleppy gets his second. OSU off to a hot start here in Game 4, looking to secure the series in 4 games.
and hunted. I mean, you're talking about backboard defense. One of the hardest parts about playing the backboard is knowing when you can realistically get up and making a touch from the ground. A great dunk here, and that one might fall on its way in, but 11 denied once again by the back wall. This one right over to Sleppy. He's got a lot to shoot at. Passes to Massiter, and he can't make the play either. And again, Sleppy and Massiter, you know, the outcome I don't think anybody was really expecting watching that one at home.
No, and they've had their off moments, but all in all, it's been a team effort thus far for Scarlet. They have supported one another. Vortex had 2 goals in the last game. Now it's Sleppy with 2 goals early on in this one. They're really looking to push this game to its limits. Don't want to go into a Game 5 against a Miami team who has shown that they can hang with some of the better teams in this league. But it's 3 minutes on the clock remain. Still a 2-0 lead for Scarlet. And now, Squid, certainly the name of the game is to play smart Rocket League if you're a blue player and just waste as much time as possible without pulling yourself out of position.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like the hardest part for the Scarlet roster might be keeping your opponents on the defense without sacrificing your third man, and Sleppy just didn't have the boost to make the play. Massiter also up in the air for that. And that's precisely what I'm talking about. You want to get that pressure. You don't necessarily have to commit and try and get that goal, though. You've got the insurance that you need for right now. Don't try to overextend. Vortex for the shot. And, oh my goodness, it was completely open. I thought there was going to be a defender or two there, but it looks like there may have been some interference.
Yeah, there were a couple of guys out in front of that play, and then eventually a double commit leads to a giveaway there in midfield. Vortex has every inch of the goal to shoot at, and he just decides to roll it home. Gets his first goal of the game, continuing his scoring from the last one. It's 3-0 now in favor of Scarlet, and almost 4 there. That one just hits off the crossbar, long-range shot. You asked the players if they could make the game as exciting as the last one. I think OSU heard you, and they just didn't want to.
Maybe Miami just didn't want to commit to it as much as OSU did. Either way, it seems to be a rather one-sided game thus far. Sleppy towards the net. Spec will block that one out with ease, but they're going to need to play a little bit more offense if they want a chance in this one. They've got 5 shots presently, almost matching Ohio State's presence on the offensive end. An opportunity here, rival in the air, blocked by Sleppy, and will go off the back wall with no orange players for support.
Final 90 seconds. 3-0 still in favor of OSU. Once again, cannot be overstated how important this series is for Ohio State. Could mean the difference between a top 8 finish and a bottom 8 finish. If you are new to the CRL, all of these teams, 16-team conference, Squid, on both the East and the West. 15 games, 15 series, I should say, have to be played in the 3 weeks that these players have to play them. And we are coming down to the end now. The top 8 from each division, as rival will slot one home to make this at least a little bit more competitive here. But the top 8 from each conference go on to the playoffs, and you don't want to be one of those bottom 8 teams who don't.
No, you certainly don't. And, well, I think I know what you're talking about, but you threw a lot of numbers at me, so I'm going to have to run that by myself a couple of times just to make sure I got the gist. But you're absolutely right in all seriousness. Bottom 8 not going to be attending the playoffs, unfortunately. Miami already out of that, and I think Ohio State Scarlet is going to secure their 8th win of the season here. Looks like a pretty convincing presence from them so far. That goal against was due to a bit of a mistake on the defensive end. I think I'm about ready to close out this series, but I believe they will have another match. So if they win this, which they're on track to do, they'll move on to 8-6 on the season, and then they will have one more match to be played off stream, which could then decide their fate, Hunter.
It most certainly could, but the final seconds of the game winding down now. 4 seconds left. Comes out to Sleppy. He'll hit it off the ceiling into the pavement there, and Scarlet take the victory in the series in game number 4. 3-1 on the score and 3-1 in the series. So congratulations to them. They move to 8-6 on the season. Miami drops to, I believe, 4-11. So, well done to Scarlet to push themselves ever closer. I cannot wait to see what they do in their final game of the season. There's still so much that needs to be sorted out in the West. There are so many games left to play, and it's going to be so close coming down to the wire, but that just means the playoffs are going to be even more exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, we could sit here and talk about the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference playoff bids for some time, but I think it would be best if you just did investigating on your own. ! Bracket. Once again, I highly encourage that you go check it out, and you can see there is still a lot of competition going on the Eastern side. The Scarlet roster for Ohio State is most decidedly not clinched yet. There's still plenty of competition going on there. But as you said, Hunter, there's a lot left to be decided in the Western Conference. Unfortunately for us, we're going to be seeing one of those matches tonight. But before we do, make sure to tweet us with hashtag CRL19 and give us your thoughts on the last match and maybe the upcoming match, which will be between UNT and Cal Poly B. No playoff implications for this one, except for the seeding category. You'll want to be here. It's going to be exciting.